All caught up, waiting for season 3. Have my wine in hand. Awesome. I've got my
Nice.
old fashioned here. I've got some Knob Hill with a little 7-Up and some syrup. Treating me right. Cody's hardcore though. I'll let Cody introduce himself a little bit and so tell us what you're drinking there.
Oh, I got some peanut butter whiskey, which is a little too sweet, but it's good. Uh, I write for the show. Um, I came in season 2, and I am the creator of the Window Liquor. And
Not just that one. Don't undersell yourself. You got a few in there.
yeah, there's a few, and I'm also low-key the voice of the Grinner.
Yeah, he's the one who
So,
haunts your dreams.
And how?
And Nathan, what are you drinking?
I'll be honest, I thought this whole thing wasn't really starting for another hour, so I was just keeping it light for the moment. A nice little White Claw.
Right.
Later, I'll have some rum and Dr. Pepper.
Ooh, that's sweet. Yeah, I think that's going to be sweeter than what I've got.
Probably.
Well, listen, guys. You know what? I have to admit, I came a little unprepared for this. I had this whole idea that we were going to choose those 3 words that we asked for on Facebook randomly, and I have an app that I was going to put them into. I totally just didn't even think about that till now, but maybe we can pick live on the stream before the stream's over for the Halloween episode. So I just wanted to give an update on the downloads. For whatever reason, the show's really taken off. We're actually almost at 115,000 at this point, which is really good for a show that's not putting content out for the last few weeks. It just keeps growing. A lot of that's thanks to you. And oh, Kelsey, how dare you? We'll make it right. But we will. I think we're going to continue to grow a lot of this, and you know, Kelsey in the chat here, we have to thank her quite a bit here because
definitely.
You know, for our YouTube or not YouTube, the Facebook group here that you're on going live, we probably had 5 or 10 people on here until Kelsey decided to say, hey, check out the Storage Papers and a couple of other podcast groups, and you guys just came in droves after that. So thank you, Kelsey. You're a
Absolutely.
VIP.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yes, thank you.
Kelsey, where are you at, by the way? What state, if you don't mind saying?
Or what state of mind?
Yeah. Well, you got to be crazy a little bit to be here. Well, let's see. So we did a little introductions. I wanted to make sure that we did draw those names before the stream ends, but we're here a lot. I mean, we're going to do a few things, right? So we want to absolutely get to your questions. I know there have been a few people. Oh, she's in Maryland. Thank you, Kelsey.
I'm from Maryland.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, I've never been to Maryland. I need to take a trip. I want to see every U.S. state before I kick the bucket. I've got about half.
I want to do all the national parks. That's my big goal in life.
Do you have your passport, those national park passports you get checked off whenever you go? No.
Nope, only been to about 3 so far.
Hey, 3's something. I mean, it's a start.
Can you guys see the chat, or is it just me?
Yes, I can see the chat.
All right. I'm just laughing at Kelsey's reply here. State of mind, put the kids to bed and they better fucking stay there. I have kids, so I can relate for sure. But yeah, we're going to do a couple things. We want to allow you guys to ask plenty of questions, as many as you'd like here. We also want to, and forgive me, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at a couple bullet points here. We wanted to announce, a couple other projects if that's right. And and also some of our future plans going forward. But what questions do you guys have? I mean, this is the meat of why we're here, right? I want you guys to be able to ask us anything. We talk a lot, so we might just ramble on your questions here. Let's see. I know we had a couple questions come in. I'll start with that. We need a warm up. Let me take a sip. We'll get a warm up. Someone had asked previously, I can't remember who, what sparked the creation of the storage papers. I can talk a little bit about that. I personally, there's a lot of true background in the show, I think, regarding paranormal experiences versus actually belief in the paranormal. I've done paranormal investigations, all that stuff I full on believe in. Where I draw the delineation is that I do not put actual experiences as fictional stories in the show. I use some of those things for inspiration. Any clients that we've gone out and spoken to, sometimes the stories they tell, I mean, some of the stuff that they come to you and say, like, we're experiencing this, help. Some of that stuff is just insane. So that in itself, it's almost like it's really good. It would make good fiction, but I don't want to cheapen the experience by turning it into fiction, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of stuff from that. I've had a lot of experiences as a kid growing up. I've even had some people have suggested, oh, maybe you're psychic or something like that. And I don't know where I stand on my belief in that. And I apologize if you hear my dog barking in the other room here. But, I just think that sometimes there's a thinner veil between what we perceive as reality and the other things that we can sometimes witness. That spawns my creativity. I really liked the idea of doing something local here in San Diego, but I don't think we have a lot of local listeners, just a handful. It's really interesting that, that the show's kind of reaching, across the country and into, I know we've got listeners in Europe, Australia, the Netherlands, Canada. It's not that far, but I just think it's interesting. I think everybody identifies with these kinds of things. If you guys have paranormal stories, I love to hear them. So shoot me an email or something. I love hearing about those things, like actual ones, not fictional stories, although I probably like to hear those too. But let me know if you've experienced anything like that. So yeah, I did a podcast a while ago that was an interview-based podcast. And that's where I kind of started talking to more people about their experiences. And I think for a time we were experiencing some really weird stuff at my house, quite honestly. And I distanced myself from it for a while. It's still a subject that interests me, but it scares my family, if that makes sense. So during the distancing of that, whenever you separate yourself from something you enjoy, you kind of get this inkling to dabble back into it. That's where I started thinking, I've always wanted to try out fiction. I'm just going to try these little short story types of things and make a podcast. And that's how it started. I think I gathered maybe 4 stories at first and put those down and released it. Tried to get a new one out every couple weeks. And here we are. It started really building some momentum and listenership. And I think, gosh, what was it? Almost a year ago now that I put a notification out on Reddit where I was looking for, writers interested. Had a lot of people reply. I think, these 2 guys, Cody and Nathan, were a couple that were just on board from the get-go, submitting tons of stuff, talking about ideas, regularly showing up for discussion. So yeah, we we decided to team up. We got the super team right here. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you guys, I don't know, maybe question for you. What made you decide to jump in with the show here?
Well, I can say for me, I'd never reached out, never talked to anyone about working with anyone ever. Background wise, writing, I wrote stories on Reddit No Sleep, and for a good long while, that was just my my weekend goals were just trying to get myself onto the front page of No Sleep and short scary stories and subreddits like that. Just with uh, short horror stories. And that was the first time that, I ever really, had any interest with, with anyone. And it's, uh, so when I first, saw, Jeremy reaching out, it was like, uh, okay, I see this plenty. These are people, a lot of people, farm for content, and and they want somebody else to do the work for them. And and when I did some research and I looked into the show, it was like, oh well, Jeremy has like a wealth of content, and and it's all good. And so the first time I talked to Jeremy on the phone, I told him that, like, this is all great, like I'm happy to sign on to this, like this is a privilege for me. This isn't, I don't feel like I'm helping you out in any sense. I'm I'm happy to work with something that I legitimately like and think is cool, which I can't say for a lot of things. I'm very antisocial, and for whatever reason, I took a chance with that, and I'm glad I did because it turned out to be really good stuff.
Well, you're helping out a lot, whether you believe it or not. I could not be doing this by myself at this point. Life is just too busy. I see a couple questions here. Maybe Nathan, if you want to just kind of go through your answer real quick,
Oh,
I'll jump in on these.
yeah. So around the time that you posted that, I was in the process of starting a somewhat short-lived project due to COVID. Everything kind of came crashing to a halt, where I was basically making a very short podcast to introduce people to more podcasts, basically a recommendation podcast. If you like this podcast, you might like these three other ones. Uh, and at the same time, because I was listening to so many podcasts, I was getting more and more involved in the community and wanted to contribute more. So um, I had written a few different short horror stories that I was um, submitting them to various podcasts just to giving them more content if they wanted that. So kind of playing the tender game with content submission. In the end, Storage Papers ended up being my match. Uh, just ended up having a lot of fun with it, and I I think the three of us have a pretty good dynamic here. I keep joking that I'm the Mulder to their Scully, or other way around.
You're the Scully.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think just to kind of add on to that, it's I'm not a collaboratively creative person. Everything I've done creatively has been solo. And I know that with COVID and all the stuff that was happening, even in my life before COVID, I was just getting so busy where I'm like, I cannot keep this up. I love doing it, but I need help. And that's, for me, like, if you've been to any of my counseling sessions, you'll realize that's a huge step for me to ask for help. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. Definitely. Let's look at Laura's question. I'd love to know if you already have an ending planned and how all the current threads will be tied together and play out, or if it's still not decided. So This is kind of a loose thing. I have an ending in my head, and I think I went into the creation of the show with an ending in my head, a very specific ending. However, looking at the creative process and us kind of figuring out how to work together, I'm trying to keep that flexible because, what happens is like we get together. We talk about where we want the next season to go. We talk about kind of short-term plans and long-term plans. I kind of gave a basic, like, here's where I want the show to end. But I'm flexible. I think these guys may have actually, improved upon that quite a bit. And I think there's something to be said for, when you're working collaboratively like this, allowing room for tweaking and manipulation and input from other people. Again, I'm just not used to doing that. So I'm trying to remain open to that. And you guys have seen, I mean, there's a different vibe between where we ended season 1 with and now where we ended season 2 with. I love the direction that we're going with all the stuff that these guys have done. So I think in the long run, we have a kind of a loose general direction that we're going, and how it will tie together. There's going to be a lot of things that will tie together here without letting too much out in advance. We do have specific direction. And I think you're going to see a little bit more evolution of the overarching storyline as Jeremy, the character, kind of dives in more and interacts with some of the characters we've established. But yes, a definite direction. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. If it didn't, ask another question. Let's see. Kelsey asks, what is the collaboration process like between you three? What does the co-writing look like? So I think that is also evolving. I think initially when I asked for help, I had kind of a main idea about where the main story was going to go. And we actually had, what was it, like 10 or 12 people that were kind of collaborating. People wanted to do these, like, what we're calling one-off stories that could exist outside of the main overarching plot. And I was just going to plan on sticking with the main plot while, everybody else submitted these other things. And, maybe I could find ways to tie them in periodically. But that has since changed. I think, with these guys showing so much interest in the main plot, and they really have brought ideas for specific character alignment. And what I appreciate is the foresight. I think you guys probably have a lot more writing experience than I do. I do great with short stories, but when it comes to these little intricate details that are thrown in that, you guys might not recognize this yet, but later they're going to be so significant, or you'll be like, oh, wow, I want to listen to that again. And, come back and kind of, I don't know, just realize, oh, wow, we were pointing this direction, or there's little clues in there. I like that. So I'm trying to start, mimicking these guys and their ability to do that. And, I think the more ideas they just kept coming at me with, the more I was like, I need to get these guys in and assist with the main storyline too. So right now we're all working on the main story arc, and we're all submitting. We have a little Discord server. When we do like a draft for a story, we submit it on a channel. We all review it. We talk about it, have these little suggestions, or sometimes we find ourselves asking like, well, what about this person? What's their backstory again? And I'm like, okay, well, let me make it up on the spot. Some of it's like, thought out, but not all of it is. And the great part is like, we're doing it together. That makes sense. I don't know. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
It's a lot of, looking at things and being like, what if? And so there's times when it's 2 of us or the 3 of us. I mean, I think, we came up with the whole plot almost for season 3, just kind of over a few nights of just sitting there like, well, hey, what about this? well, that would be cool, but what if this happened? And uh, uh, Jeremy mentioned like little bits and details and everything like that, and I won't give anything away, but season 3 is entirely driven by a bunch of very small little details and very small little breadcrumbs that we left there. And and some of those things aren't ingeniously we put those there so that we could bring these big plot points in later. Some of it is just we're constantly looking back and being like, what if wouldn't it be sick if this happened? And and then we end up in these situations where it's like, well, like it'd be really cool to expand upon this. And so all of season 3 so far is expanding upon things, and kind of this chain reaction of what if this, what if that. And and so it's just kind of the writing process a lot for us as far as the main plot is the same as if you were sitting with like a friend and trying to come up with like what would be a cool plot for a podcast. You'd be like, well, this is the type of thing I think would be cool. Well, yeah, that would be cool, but but what if this happened? Yeah, that would be cool. And then and then this happens, and and it's the exact same process that you would probably have that we're doing.
Yeah, I don't know, Nathan. Do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I mean, that was a really good description of pretty much how we're going about it. Just kind of winging it, building it, sitting down together, spit a lot of spitballing, um, just throwing random stuff at the wall, see what sticks. It can get tricky, and we're slowly getting better at this. If just two of us happen to be online at once and one of us isn't involved, and then if it goes on too long, it's crazy confusing to try to catch up on what's going on. And
Yeah, we have like pages and pages of Discord server chats that I'm like, holy shit, what did I miss? What are you guys talking about? And then I feel like I have to spend the next 2 hours catching up, going like, okay, where are we at now? That's good though. I mean, I will say, we meet over Zoom occasionally, and we need to I need to start recording those, because what'll happen is we're going through all these great ideas and everything, try to make notes here and there, and then a week later I have like overwhelmed brain. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because there were so many good ideas. But then I mean, I think each of us have you know obviously lives outside of the podcast. We all have stressors and things. There are times where I'm just like, oh my god, I can't handle this right now. I just need to take a step back, handle some stuff, and then refocus. But ultimately, I think we all have pretty decent judges of character as far as what's a good idea. Where we're not afraid to say, I don't know about this idea. We shoot one another down from time to time in a nice way. We're all very nice about it. Excuse me, but yeah, I think we should wear capes. I see Christy's comment. It's a great collaborative process. It's something I'm fairly new to, and I'm enjoying it. So
I'm really very, very antisocial, and so that's a big step for me is working with other people. Like so years and years back, I used to be in a band, and and I'd play punk music and all this stuff, and then over time, like I kept kicking people out and kicking people out, and so it was like, well, okay, well, we have two guitarists. We don't really need a rhythm guitarist. That seems kind of stupid. And then eventually it's like, well, we really don't need a bassist. I play guitar low enough. It's not really necessary. And and it got to the point where it's like, okay, we really don't need a drummer. We can just use a drum machine. And then I just was a one-man band after that, and I did everything myself because I work so poorly with other people, and for whatever reason, these two dudes work. So
yeah, we got good karma, I think, in the group here. whatever it's called. There's a word for this that it's escaping me right now, but we mesh well. Somebody says, any plans for spin-offs or expanding the universe? Now, we do have plans for expansion, some very specific plans right now. What can I say about this right now? I think I
mean,
have
you can
to
say whatever you want.
Well, I think what we're going to do is you'll see now seasons 1 and 2 combined are 27 full episodes. We are expanding the show in the sense that we are going to be doing at least a 20 episode season on the free feed. We do have plans to launch a Patreon with some expansion there. There will be extra content. You're talking at least an additional 10 episodes. But part of that is going to be part of our expansion plan. Now, as far as expanding the universe, I'm always open to that. I think right now we're just focusing on what extra content we can give to the podcast and contribute to the Patreon to make people feel like they're going to be, getting a lot of value out of that. If that turns out to be successful and we keep growing, I'm all for it. We just might need more help. As we're nearly done writing season 3, but we've been writing since we launched, those last 14 episodes, almost nonstop. And it's great because my second job, which is a teaching job, got pushed back to January, and I'm not even sure if that's going to be around at this point. We'll have to see, but it's allowed me to really devote a lot of time to this, and I think we have yet to see how far it's going to expand at this point. Bear with me here. Comments here. I hope that answered your question. So we're totally open to it. We have some of that planned out now, but there's a little more room. Christy asks, have you considered writing a book based on the characters? Now, I've thought about that. I think we could, honestly, if we just put all the scripts together that we've created, that'd be a pretty big book at this point. Our stories are getting longer. You'll find we have longer episodes. There are more details. We are just like tearing at the seams with content right now. I think that would be easy to do. Whether we just accumulated everything we're doing, or I think some of the characters you'll find in season 3 when it launches are going to have a lot of substance to them that would easily have something like that. I think it's just a matter of time. Do we have the time to do that at this point? And again, those are one of those things we're going to have to play by ear. I hate to give you a kind of a snub answer like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's totally possible. I'd like to do it. I'm getting more into writing and I feel like I'm becoming more efficient at it, but it's an interesting thought. Maybe possibly a future project. I really want to get a few things down with season 3 and then set that up for season 4. And then maybe we can think about stuff like that. But I'm not close to it.
I would completely agree that you're getting more efficient at that.
Yeah.
I'll check my notifications at the end of the day and it's like, oh, 3 more episodes to read. Okay.
That happened once. I had a really good day. I think I got a lot of sleep that night. Something was in the air. Chemistry, synergy, repertoire, all good descriptions. Perfect words. It just makes me think of The Office. Yeah, so I'm just curious, out of the characters you've met so far, which ones do you guys think are most interesting or you'd like to hear more about? Because I have some ideas, but that might be different than what you guys are thinking. Did we already address making a more distinguishing tell between the main character in his narration. Did we?
I don't know.
I don't know. Can you be more specific? Like what? I don't want to overlap them too much, and partially the way that I wrote this was I kind of had this idea of, remember if any of you saw the Blair Witch Project when it first came out, I loved how you just didn't know if it was real or not. You know, and the creators just kind of went along with it being legit. They didn't stop anybody from believing that. I wanted to add enough real life. Like, I live in San Diego. That's true. I actually had a storage unit that I was going to when I thought of this idea. There are a lot of, you know, a lot of real life things that are in the stories when it comes to like the places that I talk about, or you know, some of the local lore and some of the stories you hear. Let's see. Sometimes it's difficult to tell the difference from when he's reading the story and when he's interjecting his opinions. Okay. So I would like to make the character share his opinions a lot more. I think that's something that could be a little more easily done. And I think you're seeing that, you know, the longer the character is immersed in this environment, the more he's kind of learning about it, the more he's questioning things, you know, as the last episode title says, things aren't what they seem, you know? So you're going to see the character become more skeptical, and you're also going to see, some progress made on who's doing what. Like, I don't think he knows who to trust at this point in the story. Obviously, you had to go through some trust issues, and you maybe even built some trust with the characters in that last episode at the church there. But that's not the whole story. You know, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Kelsey loved Shaylin, A Spook in the Woods. Yeah, we don't have a ton of woods here in San Diego, but we can get to the local mountains around, and which is what I did with Shaylin. I think I put that in Angeles National Forest, which is just an hour and a half or so from here. I love how the show is written. Thank you so much. Brienne Scanlon and the old cat lady story. Well, Brienne, we have plans for Brienne, that's for sure. I won't give away too much there, but you're going to hear quite a bit more from her and from her perspective. The cat lady, that one, I feel like we've gotten so much like mixed feedback on. That was the very first episode that I got a negative comment on. It's probably the only one I got a negative comment. Well, no, there's a second one. There was, I forget what it was. Like somebody kind of chewed me out saying you ought to put content warnings on this stuff. And it's like, well, you know, it's horror. I felt like you could kind of tell where it was going. I mean, nothing good was happening with the disappearance of cats, right? I mean, I don't know. maybe I'm giving that person a little too much credit, but yeah, some people really loved it, but you know, I've had people say, I love my cats, I just had to turn it off, I'm sorry. But then I get some really good feedback on it. So, I mean, we could always bring the cat lady back, but it might piss off half the people.
Might be worth it, though.
Yeah. It's like a love or hate situation. And yeah, Nathan writes one about the dog and gets no flack for that.
Well, in fairness, was it really a dog?
Well, it started out. We heard the ripping of flesh and the fur tearing and all this stuff. What was it?
Come to think
Veins?
of it, I did literally kill a dog in I don't remember the
You did, that's
the
right.
number. Yeah, I did. I murdered a dog. Sorry.
I don't think I even mentioned that in the warnings on that episode. I may have to go back and put that in. Whoops.
Oops.
We should cross-check one another when we do this.
We should.
We're trying to, honestly, season 2 we got a lot better with the content warnings and putting, like, if you don't view the show notes, they're all in the show notes. We're trying to be very specific about the trigger items there. It says, I don't think I'm explaining well enough, but thanks for delving more on this point. Feel free to keep asking. It's probably not you, it's me. I'm having a drink here. Just keep the questions coming. More on Ron Hammond, Christy says. We've got season 3. We have some very telling things about Ron Hammond. He's an interesting character, and I know nobody asked this question, but I based a lot of his characteristics off my biological father, who died a couple years back. This guy was a Vietnam vet, had PTSD, had just a series of unfortunate events in his life, and I think Ron's kind of this like quiet, withheld guy in the stories, but you're going to see a little more of him and kind of understand where he's coming from throughout the season coming up here. I'm interested in the narrator himself and rounding him out. Well, if I had a full screen, you'd see I'm pretty round. I got a beer gut. I'm just kidding. Okay, rounding him out. Okay, I can do that. So
I think that'll happen some.
Yeah,
it's happening definitely in season 3. It's just that's the most consistent character. So everyone is growing. It's a slow process. This isn't a slow burn podcast by any means, but we definitely have introduced things very slowly. I mean, the second to the finale was the first time we really put Jeremy in big immediate danger, and we took our time with that, and that's almost two full seasons in to have that experience. And so it's kind of like that with everyone, where there's growth with everyone, and Jeremy definitely grows, and things change, and there's some development, and there's some more backstory, and there's some more things with him coming up very soon. It's just it's not an immediate process where we immediately dump a bunch of exposition and explain his entire life and everything that's going on with him and all of his development all at once. But he is a dynamic character, and it's just a slow process of introducing these traits and introducing these events and these little bits of his life, and and you kind of understand more about him, and you kind of start to understand more of why you don't understand more about him now. And so that's just a matter of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think in addition to, like, with the first couple seasons, Jeremy's kind of an armchair researcher. He finds the stuff, he thinks it's cool, he's noticing some recognizable locations, and he just thinks it's a cool thing to put into a podcast. And then the shit kind of gets weird for him. But I think after the end of season 2, things have gotten very personal, and just like Cody said, you're going to see a little more stuff from Jeremy, from being frustrated to being like, the fuck is going on here, kind of attitude. And I do like, I'm kind of skipping around the questions, like, what does he stand to lose? Does he have a day job, a family? Yes, he does. We're mentioning that in season 3 as well. So you'll get a little more expansion there. But I think that's where it's hard to draw focus. This is a multi-central character story that's just kind of starting out with Jeremy. He's almost like, in a sense, that part of what he's doing is very important, but it's also a lot of background story too. All the actions happening with the other characters. So we're gonna be mixing that up. And again, like I said, as we proceed with the future seasons, you're going to be getting more insight on all the characters, including Jeremy, and a little bit of a glimpse of the big picture that's happening. If I can be vague about it. Let's see. Yeah, it's a horror podcast. What do people expect? That's what I said. I think I missed a question. Let's see. How did you guys get into writing and podcasts? Sorry if I missed it. I'm a few minutes late. Yeah. So, I mean, writing for me, it's pretty new for me. I've done podcasts for a while, but my background's medical imaging. I did a couple on medical imaging before. I did an interview podcast on the paranormal. I did another podcast, which is like one of those stupid ones where a group of friends get together and talk about nothing. And of course, nobody listened to that one. So I just had some ideas for fiction stuff and decided to put it down. That's kind of the short story of it. As far as going forward, I can see this taking up a lot of my time and effort, and it's been very rewarding so far. So I might stick in this lane for as long as I can. I'll probably keep writing. It's something I enjoy. I've just never tried before, so I love doing it. And it's such a unique media to be able to tell a story. I still have people going like, "What's a podcast?" They have no idea. But there's this whole world where, I mean, you can find anything about anything in podcasts. And what's great about it is if you have something that you're writing like this, it can be applied to other mediums. But I really enjoy the way it's all coming together in this medium for us. How about you guys? Where'd you get your start in writing?
So I started writing spooky little things and stuff like that uh, uh, when I was a kid. Pretty much just being a little kid, with weird things happening, and so so for some backstory, um, I grew up in Aberdeen, Maryland, and and who knows, how much my memory has warped, some of these things, and who knows, how many of those things, were just things I didn't understand because I was a kid. But I grew up in a very spooky house. The first one of the first memories I have uh, uh, as a human being is walking into the closet of our brand new house, and I walk in there, and my memory is blank, and I just remember walking around, touching things, opening up cabinets, and I was so interested in looking in drawers and things like that in the kitchen. And I go into what would eventually be my sister's bedroom, and then eventually my bedroom, and and I go in the closet, and I don't really remember what happened, but I just remember I walked out, and I was about 4 or 5, and I walked out, and my finger was just gushing blood everywhere, and I just kept saying, "It bit me, it bit me, it bit me," and they were like, "What bit you?" And so and I found out later that they dug through the closet looking for nails or staples, or or anything that I could have cut my finger on, because you don't want that in the house. And they didn't find anything, but my mom and my sister were very interested in spooky things. And growing up in Aberdeen, Maryland, we grew up on like a, more or less like a Civil War battleground type of area. And so there was all these these stories of of interesting things that that happened in supernatural weird events. And and my mom and my sister were very interested in that stuff, and they'd stay up all night telling stories of what people in the neighborhood said about this this particular event happened, and this particular event happened, and and not just to people in the neighborhood and neighbors, but to our household, things like they would say that you could hear somebody walking up onto the porch at night, and knocking loudly on the door, and they'd go and look, and there'd be nobody there. And it happened at all hours of the night. They'd say there's nobody, no kids running up here and running away. It doesn't make any sense. And and they'd say if you wait and you don't go and answer the door, you can hear the person walking around, and you can hear their bootsteps waiting for you to answer the door. And so I grew up with things like that. and that shaped me in uh, a way that made me super interested in horror and supernatural things. And and I had my own, various experiences of things of that nature, and that entirely shaped my creativity. So, I mentioned before I played, I played music and I wrote songs about horror things, and I make art, and the art I make is horror things, just because that's kind of the thing that imprinted on me. And like I said before, that's what I was doing when I linked up with Jeremy, was writing horror stories, mostly, super short little, you know, horror stories on Reddit and things like that. Sorry, a little bit long-winded.
It's a good question though.
And you guys have these great stories about all these things that impacted you that made you want to get into horror. And now I have to wonder if my wife's right. Maybe I am just a psychopath. Who knows? Um, I don't have any formal writing training outside of the normal basic stuff you go through in school, college. Um, I went to school. Like I majored in, I can't even remember what the program was called anymore. Um, Basically, like all the creative stuff except for writing, the media production stuff. Um, so every time I wrote a story, I got, and that's something I've always enjoyed doing since I was a kid. I'd write stories all the time. Um, I'd get frustrated that I couldn't push it out in any way other than just words on a screen. Um, Podcasting has a much lower barrier to entry than a lot of other mediums, which is great because it gives a lot of creatives an opportunity to actually have a voice. Um, so I'd say that's where I personally got more into podcasting. Um, I felt like there was another part to that question, but I'm not seeing it. So that's probably good.
Just how I think it was just how. Sorry, I'm scrolling back here. How'd you get into writing and podcasts? I think you got it.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Answered.
let's see. Laura's a total crazy cat lady, literally hanging off the edge of her bed because two are taking up half the bed. Still love the episode. We'll see. You don't have to be a hater of cats. I don't hate cats. I'm highly allergic to them, but you know, it's not their fault. I don't hate them.
I love cats. I would have cats if I hated my furniture, but I love my furniture.
You
So
know what? That like I've known a few cat ladies. Like these elderly women. Uh, they're often very unhealthily, like psychologically unhealthy. They also hoard stuff. There's like rodents in their house. Um, for me, it was more of like, I think growing up, I knew a couple of those ladies in the neighborhood. They were super nice. They'd always like pay me to mow their lawn and stuff like that. But I always wondered, there was this like mystery about um, what's inside the house. I can smell cat piss. Um, I didn't understand how they lived like that. And then over time, as these shows come out, hoarders and stuff like that, your imagination goes away. But it was always this fascination with me of like, what is that person doing in there?
yeah.
Every time she opens the door, six cats come out, and I don't know, just weird.
Well, they create their own. It's like they create the mystery around themselves because and this doesn't speak for everyone, and you're certainly, not a bad person if you're obsessed with animals. I'm obsessed with animals. I'm sitting next to a guinea
I
pig
love
right
animals.
now,
Yeah, I don't
My
want
wife's a
to.
dog
you know,
trainer, so
yeah, I'm a pretty big dog guy, and and that's pretty much my whole world. But a lot of people that are like that, have that like they don't need people because they already have their like social itch scratched with cats, which is fine because I do that with my dog. But so they create their own mystery where it's like they don't really speak to anyone else. They don't need any of your social approval, and so they're already cutting themselves off, and then you're left wondering like, so what is it about you?
Yeah, I get it. So I'm looking here. It says, does Jeremy have a day job, a family? What does he stand to lose? I'm gonna gracefully pass over that and just say, you'll learn a little more season 3.
Very graceful.
We can't spoil you.
Yeah. I love answering your questions, though. These are great. Will any of the stories mimic our current? Whoops, it bounced there. Our current world, aka 2020. Yes, we're kind of leading up to the main story arc being present time. We lost Cody last time he did that before we launched. He hit the back button by mistake. He'll be back. But yeah, we want this. Here he is. We want this to be.
I did the same thing I did last time.
Yeah. Put the drink down, sir. We do
I'm
want
almost
this.
done. The bottle is empty, so.
All right. So
Wait, are you just drinking straight from the bottle, or?
No,
So we expect improvement from here out now that you're out.
Yeah.
No, but present day, I mean, we're kind of caught up to the point where Jeremy has, been interacting with these characters present day with the church kind of stuff. And the plot is going to, the major overarching plot is going to continue present day and well into the future as he experiences all these things. And, but I think there's going to be important tie-ins with documents within the papers from years and years ago, various time frames that will be pertinent and relevant to the current story, if that makes sense.
And that was kind of referenced in Bait, the masks on the face. I mean, people, they weren't just wearing those for fun.
Yeah, we talk about COVID a little bit in the story, and yeah, we want there to be factual info included.
Yeah, I think that was Nathan that pointed out some critiques in that script, and he was like, "Hey, buddy, you might want to go back. I don't think people would do that right now in the current state of things." And so I was like, "All right, yeah, you're right."
Yeah, but what's great about that is, 10 years from now, when COVID's like no longer thought of, if somebody listens, they're going to be like, "Oh wow, is that really going on?" And maybe they didn't experience it themselves, or I don't know. It's just a cool little factual thing of present day. I like adding that in there.
So weird to think about. It's like kids that grew up after 9/11.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had I was talking to a person on Discord today that's Canadian, and I told her, I said, I'm hungry for lunch. I might go get some Taco Bell. And she says, "Oh, I'd love that. I'm going to make a run for the border." And it hadn't occurred to me. She was like, I think she's late 20s, but that used to be Taco Bell's like slogan, run for the border. And I was like, "Oh, I see what you did there." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I had to like pull up the commercial. She had no clue. It was just a fortunate, what do you call it? Coincidence. Sorry, a little tangent here. Are any of you formally trained? I am trained no.
No.
Not in anything relating to writing or fiction or podcasts or anything like that. I teach as a secondary job. I've been teaching for about 16 years. I teach radiography. So I have a lot of medical training background in that stuff, radiation physics and all that crazy stuff that would probably bore you to death. But I think just in the enunciating of my speech, that's probably the only, criticism or you could say training that I've had. I am not an actor. I am not a writer. I haven't written fiction before this, so not for me. How about you guys?
Nope.
This was the question I was
I
thinking of.
Oh yeah.
I went to school for about a year and a half, and I realized that I hated school just like I thought I did, and I just and I'd paid for my classes in advance, and I just was like, you know what, I paid for this. If I were to waste it, that's on me, and I just never went back. Hated it.
Yeah, I was actually trained. I got a scholarship out of high school in like visual arts. Like I used to be really good at soft pencil shading and pen and ink, and I was looking at back then doing like comic books or video game creation or anything like that, but they didn't have programs like that. I took one college class and dropped it. I gave up my scholarship because what I realized is I used it as like an outlet. I only wanted to create art that I was interested in. The second somebody said, I need you to create this and have these bullet point criteria, I was like, I'm out. I'm not interested in that. So yeah, I don't know. Weird stuff. I'm probably going a little outside of the questions here.
I would
I
agree
apologize.
that writing makes you a writer, not a degree. Although over the course of acquiring a degree, you usually do a lot of writing. Um, but I will say, even just writing with these two has, I think, made me a better writer. Um, just picking up things as I'm reading through their stuff and trying to make sure that our stories are meshing. It's really been a great process in developing my own skills.
Yeah, same here. I think
Yeah,
there's
same.
something to be said about like these little indie productions. Not everybody has training like this. And what Nathan said, anybody can put a podcast out there. It just takes a little bit of, looking up at how to do it, and um, over time you learn to improve quality. You invest in a little bit better equipment, and I think just putting yourself out there and starting, you're going to get better if you just keep doing it. Let's see. The story about the knock at the door is giving me the serious heebie-jeebies, and I really need the toilet, but I don't want to get up out of my bed because it's dark and nearly 1 a.m. here as I walk into the toilet. I'll have to walk by our front door. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad we were able to successfully heebie-jeebie you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
That's what I live for.
Someone likes the cat lady, minus all the yuck. What is this? Oh my God, I had to go to Canvas for a friend of mine who wanted to run for office. There's just some houses that emit a smell not healthy. Yes, it's a very particular smell. I wonder if they have cats in there. You have to go by and knock on the door now just to find out because I need to know. Cody exposed. Writing makes you a writer, not degrees. I like that. I appreciate that statement. Don't discredit yourselves. Irregardless of training, you'll have created something amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm surprised. Like I feel like this over season 2, even during the hiatus, I feel like we were able to get some additional followers or listeners, and people just keep sharing it, and I love that. It's cool. And I think I'm tempted to be a little intimidated by that because, it's when you start out and you have no experience doing something, you're just hoping to make something like that's halfway decent. But I think asking for help was probably the best thing I could have done. With these two guys on board, I think we can keep growing it to something that's even more polished. And yeah, I'm not going to keep talking about season 3, but I think you'll see some differences. Let's see. Oh, by the way, while I have y'all live, the window licker. How could you? That's all Cody. Cody wrote that one.
You bastard.
Yeah, that one was pretty creepy. Dare I say anything more about the window licker?
I say let's put a pin in that for
We'll put a pin in it. Okay.
now. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've already said enough as it is.
Okay. All right. Well, you
I
got
mean, just
creepy
the
points
fact that,
on it.
yeah.
Just
Let's
keep an
see.
eye outside your window.
Yeah. If you hear that noise, you need to run or try. Uh, I'm at work. I may have missed the answer about the overnight. Did I miss a question? Sorry. Let me scroll back here. I apologize if I missed a question.
I think I saw that. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to answer that one though.
I didn't see it.
The overnight is my go-to episode when I recommend your pod. How did that episode come about?
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, that one was that Hunters? I
Yeah,
think that was
I'm
Hunter
pretty sure.
Delametters. He was one of the guys that volunteered when I first started asking for help. He was writing, he said he wanted to write these little one-off stories that I was asking for. And initially I was thinking, hey, if I got like 10 guys together to each submit a 1 or 2 episodes a season just for one-offs, I could focus on the main story, and then I'd have all these episodes. I think he ended up writing one. Was it 1 or 2? I think it might have been 2. I think we just haven't released the other one.
Yeah, there is another one, I believe.
Yeah. But that was all him. Unfortunately, I didn't have any influence. I don't think these guys did either in the writing of that. I believe he was also kind of like of the no sleep origins as well. But I really enjoyed that story. I think that one, it was crazy because when I go to add in audio effects, that one had like over 30, I think 30 or 35 different files I had to add because there were so many different, like, the fires and the doorbell and the TV static and the skin, sliding off of the guy's legs in the hot tub. And there's just so many effects. It was such a cool one. It took a long time to do, but I felt like we did the story justice by just taking a little more time on it and giving those effects to your ear holes. But yeah, that's a good one. I did enjoy that one.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see. I'm trying to catch up here. Every time I talk, I'm trying to look at the camera, but then I forget where I'm at in the feed here. Let's see. The overnight. Oh, that was only two things up. The visuals y'all created just sticks in the mind. That dude sucks. We'll see if I can tell him for you. Yeah. Any other questions you guys have? I might just kind of announce a couple things here real quick, but feel free in the meantime to type any other questions you might have. I know we're already over an hour here. Wow, we talk a lot, don't we? I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about a couple other podcasts. I know I'm appearing on one coming up. I just released. It's called Paranormal Podcast We Listen to. I put that on the Facebook feed. So, and that guy kind of talks about the show. He asked a couple questions about season 3 and kind of the same, a few origin story questions, and that's just me on there. But that guy's just starting that podcast. It's kind of a cool concept. It's very similar to what you were doing, Nathan, with the recommending similar things. But you can check that out. Paranormal Podcast We Listen to. If you guys, I don't know if you guys like true crime or like psychology type of stuff. I have done a few episodes with this guy. His name's Michael Drain. He runs the Unpopular Culture podcast, and I did link to the podcast itself. I think this will be my 3rd time on his show. I think it's coming out next week or so, but I'll put a link on all our socials. He asked me to research James Bulger. I don't know if you guys have heard about this case. It's apparently very huge in Europe, where 2, I think they were 10 at the time, 2 10-year-olds abducted and murdered a 2-year-old. It's very, heavy. Yeah, the content warnings up the wazoo for that one. We talk about some very intensive stuff. So see, being a medical person, I've also worked in forensics. I've done some stuff with the medical examiner, so I'm used to being involved in stuff like that. It's really, you know, I don't think of that as like scary stuff. It's more like professional stuff that I try to give my opinions on. It's not to be taken as fiction. I mean, these are real things that happen. It's sometimes very difficult for people to hear. So his show is like that. He's a psychotherapist. He does he specializes in the criminally insane. Yes, train yard murder. So he's dealing with this as a career every day. He's also a professor. He teaches psychology now, but he's got cool stuff. I mean, he talked about the Slender Man killings, where it was more like you know, the origin story. I made him aware of the Elisa Lam murder. We talked about that for an episode, but he'll go into like the psychology of Black Mirror, and he's just got a cool vibe about his show. I can't say I agree with everything he says, but he comes at it from a different angle with the psychology approach that I just, you know, I don't have that background. It's very interesting stuff. Let's see, has COVID presented any problems with production? How do you deal with hurdles? COVID did, you know, and I actually was very truthful on that hiatus announcement I did, where back in, I want to say late December, early January, I got sick. My daughter got sick. My son was hospitalized. He was in the hospital for almost 30 days. And back then, you know, we were just hearing about COVID. The doctors didn't know how to treat it. They didn't even know it was COVID. So he never actually had a diagnosis. But later, the pediatrician said in a follow-up appointment, you know, this is probably COVID. He just wasn't responding to antibiotics. You know, and it was like a weirdest thing. I think I had it, but again, at the time I wasn't tested for it. And then later, about 3 weeks later, I started to get a cough again, and I got tested, and that test was negative. The only problem with it was I really lost my voice, and then I wasn't sleeping a lot. My kids were up. We were alternating nights staying with my son in the hospital. I was out of work for over a month, you know, for my primary job. So that halted production for me. I couldn't even think. I couldn't write, nothing. So I feel like, you know, and that was right after I asked for these guys' help, you know. So I feel like we got all this momentum up. We got all this, you know, people interested in contributing to the story. And then I disappeared. And I was really like, at this point, I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this show. So I kind of put my feelers out to see, you know, who's still interested in this. And we kind of slowly got the ball rolling again. And now it's just exploded, where everybody's up to par now. I think we're safe as long as I don't come down with something. You know, I can probably start recording pretty soon for season 3. So we do. I do want to make sure that we're communicating. I'll always put a message out on the feed if a delay has happened unexpectedly. But yeah, it definitely affects us. I don't know if it affected you guys or not. I can't remember. I just talked to so many people about who's sick and what symptoms you had back then. I don't remember. But yeah, it did affect us. Has it hit you guys?
For me, I've just been working from home. I've been probably doing some of the best writing ever because I'm at home. So I'm one of the minority of people who have done well and thrived in quarantine conditions. I just wish it were under better circumstances, obviously. You know, if we could do this, but about something maybe less crucial, that would be pretty nice for me. If I could just keep working from home, keep being allowed to, you know, get drunk in the middle of the week, and stuff like that. Things would be Gucci, but you know, terrible circumstances for it. So
Yeah, I gotta say, I lost my stepdad to COVID too. You know, he was in a long-term care facility, and you know, he was been disabled for a while, so he had a lot of other health conditions going on. But you know, I just feel bad for my mom because she was not allowed to see him for like the last 6 months of his life, and they just called her one day and said that he'd gone overnight. Um, it, you know, I don't like to get political on on the podcast or social media or anything like that. But I'll just say, like, I'm a little disappointed in, you know, how some people still believe it's a hoax. It's very real. You know, I see it in healthcare every day. Um, yeah, and I'll leave it at that. I don't need to get too crazy into politics or opinions or anything. But it has affected, at least, you know, a lot of people I know, and myself included. Nathan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I hadn't even started. You're good.
Sorry.
No, I didn't really have much to say on that. I got sick with COVID-like symptoms around the same time, but it was still super early into the whole COVID thing, so it wasn't a way I could get tested. Um, like they would have turned me away if I tried to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I had it or not. If I did, I'm really glad that I made it through because I have asthma and I know that complicates things. Um, but other than that, as far as podcast production is concerned, I mentioned my other podcast kind of ground to a halt because being home all the time, including, you know, my wife and my kid, and everybody else in my apartment complex, means that it's very difficult to record my own stuff. And then with the lack of a commute and my job roles changing at work over the course of this, I've had like no time to listen to podcasts either, which sucks because it's something I enjoy and something that it was the kind of the whole premise of my other work. But yeah, aside from that, as far as storage papers in particular is concerned, for me it hasn't impacted anything. But given that our voice here was gone, yeah, it had a major impact on storage papers itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, big long delay. Yeah, hopefully we're done with delays though. Let's see. Any advice for people looking to get into podcasting? Yes, I always tell people, you know, just start. I mean, you can podcast with relatively no equipment. I mean, just know when you first start out, your quality is not going to be awesome, more than likely, unless you've got some kind of background in that. The way you present things verbally, even the questions you ask, you know, it's not going to be awesome right away, but you evolve and you improve as you do it. The only way to get better is to do it. And I still feel like, you know, I've been podcasting, what, 5 or 6 years now in various different projects, but I still feel like there's more to learn. You know, get in there on YouTube and, you know, learn the tricks of, you know, audio editing software, learn how to boost your voice, learn tricks in how to speak and how to hold the reader's attention. I'm constantly researching things. Just don't get to the point where you over research and you get this like fear of starting. You can always start and improve. You know, if you have an idea, go for it. You can even go on Reddit and, you know, ask for feedback about your idea. People will tell you if it sucks. They're very upfront and honest there. Sometimes they're, you know, don't go in there with your heart on your sleeve. But yeah, just I would say, you know, if you have a topic and you're seriously considering it, jot down on a piece of paper or take notes on Word, like, can I do 50 episodes of this, and just kind of bullet point 50 topics. And if you feel like that's easy and it's enjoyable, do it. Because I've done podcasts where I don't necessarily enjoy it. I have knowledge that I was sharing that people appreciated, but it got to be a drag. It was really just not fun. So it's not going to be sustainable if you don't enjoy it. That's my 2 cents.
Unless you're planning a limited run podcast like Video Palace, for example,
Yeah.
then you don't have to plan 50 episodes.
Right. There's those. I keep forgetting. Like
Yeah.
I just listened to the Left Right game. What was that? 10
Oh, yeah.
episodes. I love that, and you could easily do something like that without much time investment, or considering like, hey, am I going to be doing this a year from now? Good point.
My advice for that, and this goes for any creative avenue whatsoever, is nothing you do ever has to be final. You can make things and they can just be for you. And you can make things and decide, like, okay, like I've learned something new. Now I can, pursue this path. Or, these are some things that I didn't like. Let's try again. And people are very afraid of doing something that they don't think is going to be a finished product. But it's like, you have to learn and you have to practice. And like, sometimes you feel like you waste your time. Sometimes people feel like, well, I can't cook. And they have to accept, sometimes, you have to make some things that don't taste very good and learn so that you can make things that are good. And sometimes, you don't, paint the most beautiful painting. Sometimes there's going to be a canvas that you're going to toss out. Sometimes you're going to write a story and you're never going to share it with anyone. And it's never going to leave, your laptop or leave your cell phone. It's just going to be something that only you will ever know about. And that's okay. Like, not everything you do has to be a finished product, or has to be a business venture, or has to be something that you share with other people. Everything that you do, you learn from. And, you know, it's completely okay to, sit down with a microphone and, and write something and sit and record it and, you know, decide from there whether or not that's for you or not. That doesn't mean you have to buy a whole, podcasting setup and invest all this time and, and do all this research, all at once. You can always just sit down and, sit in front of a microphone or sit in front of your phone when, with a, recording app, and record something and see how you feel about it, and see if that inspires you, and if that's something that you want to pursue and something that you genuinely enjoy. And that's the most important thing, is that you feel comfortable and you feel like you enjoy it. And sharing things with the world and learning how to, create a business out of that, that's after the fact. That's, steps like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Those aren't right now. Right now, it's just make something and see how you feel about it, And
Have
that's
you
like
ever
that with
considered being a
everything.
motivational speaker? I feel pumped up.
Just to have this image of Shia LaBeouf in my head. Just do it!
Do it. It's funny. Laura says that she's an ED nurse. By the way, much respect to ED nurses, especially right now. I manage a couple at this point, and I mean, I've been in the ERs. It's nuts in the ERs right now. I always had a great respect as an imaging person for the ED nurses. So I've done, X-ray, CT. I've been a cath lab tech. You guys put up with a lot of shit. You get spit on, you get swung at, sometimes punched, verbally abused. So thank you for what you're doing and still doing it. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of false readings for those early tests. We've got a little higher success rate on the ones we're getting now out here in California, but there's still at least a 10%, I think, for the ones we're using. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to mention that. Are there any plans to expand the number of voice actors on the show? Yes, a little bit. Yeah, you'll hear more people. You've heard Cody, you've heard me. I got some random people from season 1 that kind of put stuff in there. They actually still listen to the show. They keep in touch, and they're like, "When can I come back?" So I think we may have opportunity for using them. Like the little kid on the ice cream man. I talked to her dad. I didn't go solicit minors, for that, but I put a post out on record this for free subreddit, And this guy responded, and he says, "I got a 5-year-old that would love to do this," and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, we do have plans for expansion. Um, you'll hear that pretty soon into the next season, I believe. And we're not totally sure on the order of things yet. I think we still it's like a rough outline. We have all this stuff written, but we want to make sure we put it in the order we want. But yeah, you'll hear some stuff.
Yeah.
Literally the title of the document, rough outline.
Yep. Where do we share our personal stories of the paranormal? You can email, it's Jeremy at thestoragepapers.com, or Nathan or Cody at thestoragepapers.com. I'll share it with these guys if you email it to me or CC all of us. I'd love to hear that stuff. I do, some of the podcasts I listen to are still of firsthand experiences with stuff in paranormal. So yeah, I'll take any of that stuff I can get. Let me just, before we kind of end things here, just wanted to announce a few details. They're going to be pretty vague, but about the Patreon, we are going to be doing a Patreon campaign. There are going to be different tier rewards that include different types of patron recognition. And this is, I'm not going to go through an exhaustive list right now. Just know there's more than what I'm saying. There's going to be various types of extra content, some really unique offerings that we're going to have here. So I think that's the number one thing that people request on Patreon is extra content. We're going to have plenty of that. There's going to be new and kind of different ways to interact with us, all the creators, the writers, and all the other stuff. I don't think we mentioned it earlier, but Nathan also did all the art. Cody does the music. We kind of start out, we had a bunch of music that, was kind of like Creative Commons stuff. We're slowly transitioning to more and more of Cody's stuff there. And then all of that episode art Nathan does. We're looking at a way to get some behind the scenes content in there for you. And then maybe some extra stuff. We might throw in some bonus stuff every once in a while that might not be necessarily listed out on the tiers, but just keep an eye out for for updates and messages on that. We will have it launched by the time season 3 goes live. We're just kind of waiting for a couple of details to be sorted out before we actually launch when season 3 will go live. I forgot about the ice cream episode. I'm glad you liked that one. Any other questions before we wrap up for tonight? This was actually kind of fun. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to show up. You never know, sometimes you get 30 or 40 people say, "Oh, I'm interested," and then it's nobody. But
like I said, in a worst case scenario, it's just hanging out and drinking. And
yeah,
not a bad way to spend an evening.
Yeah, I'd chat with you guys anytime. Well, I didn't have to take notes this time though. All right, guys. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we'll end it here. But I just want to say thank you again. I mean, you guys are amazing. You have gotten us to a huge download number, and all of you who've even kind of shared with your friends and all that stuff. And this is just kind of our way of saying thanks, just to come on and answer a few questions here. We really appreciate you, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, y'all.
Thank you.